I asked 193 readers like you, which has been your favorite book of the year so far. And although I got 134 different books, there's a special set of books that were mentioned the most. Today we're going to talk about those top 20. In position number 20, we have a story that I really want to read for next year. I've asked this for Christmas and I'm hoping this will happen. It's a story that has been pitched as being this perfect reminiscent Tolkien story, has influenced George R. R. Martin, and it is also fairly slow, but it seems that it really pays off. The Austen Art Saga by Tad Williams. This is personally at the top of my TBR, and what I've heard about this series so far, it's phenomenal. Not only because of how amazing the character work is, but also how intricate the world building is. So I want that epic, really high fantasy that is well constructed on my hands, like yesterday. In position number 19, we have a story that for sure you're not going to be surprised it is here because it has been such a hype this year. This author is very prolific. It's way more on the sci-fi side and it has conquered the hearts of a lot of different booktubers and readers alike. It's a story that it is this perfect epic blend of cosmic battles with political intrigue and very high stakes. And that is the Sun Eater Saga by Christopher Rook. A lot of readers said that they lean more towards the latest book on the series, that it seems that they are phenomenal, incredible. You can absolutely not miss them. I've personally just read the first one, found it a little bit slow, although by the end I was like, yeah, things are interesting in here. I'm not sure if I'm following everything, but I've heard that I need to stick with it and I will probably be continuing with this series as well. Position number 18, we have a series that, although it has not been released this year or concluded, I'm just so happy that keeps appearing here. It's one of my favorite series of all time. It's a trilogy that it's concluded and it is phenomenal. I didn't think this was going to be for me initially. I am not a huge fan of urban fantasy stories, and this one, man, it's so political, it's so personal. The ability of this author to craft very well fleshed out characters, it's incredible. I still cry, and this is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This author is magnificent, and although it's definitely not for everyone because it's very grey in the sense all of our characters have their highs, their lows, and you just learn to love them all because of these. It is incredible. The magic system, though, it is not super nuanced. It's soft, and it is not the main part of the story. It's rather what this magic implies for the society and what they're able to do, but it's way more about family drama. Position number 17, we have a series that when I read these coming time and time again, I was like, yay, I definitely agree with this, because the first book in this series, it's also making it to my top list of the year, and it's no doubt it won the SPFBO Prize Award this year, and those are the Lamplight Murder Mysteries by Morgan Stan, the first one being Murder at Spindle Manor. Listen, these are incredibly short, very, very funny. There's this mystery, whodunit, and it is very Agatha Christie plus fantasy, and it just is such a good time. It's the perfect read if you want to get out of a reading slump, because honestly, the characters are very entertaining, and although you won't get a lot of they have this incredibly well developed person and the inner thoughts are very sophisticated, that's not the case, but the action and the weirdness of the characters, it's very on point, and I really, really, really recommend. Position number 16, we have a series that it starts being epic and kind of fun. It eventually turns out into something way more darker, but it is very compelling. I've just read the first book, which is also going to make it into my top list of the year, and the comments that I got from this series is that it's perfect if you like Aragorn, but also it turns like you're an adult now and you want to read stuff that kind of goes down as well, and I can agree with that. And this is the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. The ability also of this author to craft a story that it's very character driven but also action packed. You're never bored, the stakes are super high and you want to know more. The characters are strangely likable, but at the same time you're like, oh my god, things are going down. But I really recommend, if you have not picked this one up, to start with it. I know you're gonna like it. And if you read it and want to share with others the love about this series, please do so, because other readers have definitely enjoyed it as well. In position number 15, we have the only standalone in the list, also one of those stories that I really want to read. It's at the top of my TBR, and I basically have no excuse for not reading anything about this author. It's a story that has a phenomenal rating on Goodreads, and it's been pitched as, you know, being very consuming. It has this perfect blend of action, characters that are very well developed, and it is The Lions of Alrazan by Guy Gabriel Kay. I haven't read anything about this author. I know, don't blame me. I want to. It's like in the top of my missions. And what got other readers, and actually they were like, be ready to have tissues next to you. And I'm like, yeah, this is something that sells. I want to cry. But especially this is the ambience of this book. It's on Spain. I live in Spain. So I really want to get this book, which is very medieval era with great characters and complex world building. And I'm here for it. Also, I'm a sucker for standalones. We all know these. So I'm here for it. Position number 14. We have a series that I've only read the first book, did so around 5 years ago or so, and I was not the biggest fan of it, although I understand how others can like it, but it just, the narration style, it was not for me. It's told in a second person, and it was a little bit jarring for me. Something that we cannot deny about this story is that it's very unique. The magic system, its incredible characters are great, and the narration style also makes sense in the proper story, and that is the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin. I initially started reading these because Murphy Napier recommended it, and I was like, if she likes it, I'm gonna read it. And perhaps I was not ready for these, or it was not the moment for me. I loved how magic was intertwined with earth and overall like the environment. I love that kind of magic systems, and in this world, the idea that everything is broken and it is like going down heavily was also really appealing. So if you haven't picked this one up, other readers have enjoyed it, so perhaps you will as well. In position number 13, we have one of my favorite books of all time. I love that this one is here. This author has been traditionally published this year, not because of this book, but because of other, that it's also in the list. But I am begging the universe to get this book translated, and it's the book that has made me cry the most, and that is Sword of Kagan by M.L. Wang. Elemental magic, which is perfection, with action scenes that in some cases rival Sanderson, which for me, he's my favorite author. It's like, you know, the Sandor Lanches. It's not that in here the ending is like that, but the action points are really well done. The character development, it's incredible, and it's a story that it is honestly life-changing. It inspired me so much. It made me cry so much. I definitely believe you should read it if you have not yet. It's my favorite standalone of all time as well. And look at this edition. I always love to show it. It's like flashy. Position number 12 is a story that I've heard about it, but not much, and I'm kind of surprised that it is here. I went to check the rating on Goodreads, and it is still on the underrated kind of stories, which I love. I am a sucker also for underrated stories. There are so many great stories out there still to be discovered, and we only have some time, so like, let's get those stories discovered. And this is the Rook and Rose series. It seems that it is very adventurous. It has these great points because magic system, it's twisted. It's like nightmares, and you have also tarot cards. There's this world. It's very on point if you like Six of Crows. It seems a little bit reminiscent also of Lies of Locke Lamora, which I just discovered this year. Well, rediscovered. Initially I hated it, and then I reread it, and it's just like, yeah, 5 stars. But this one seems to be really unique as well, so I will definitely be reading this one as well. I've also asked for the first book in this series. Actually, a lot of the books that I've got from this list that I did not know about or that I did not have, I've already ordered, so I'm begging you to do basically the same. In position number 11, we have this story of the author that we've just seen a while ago that has gone traditionally published. It has been even translated into Spanish, so a lot of different friends of mine can already read it, and I'm just hoping that this author will become more popular and her works can be accessible to more people, and this is Blood of a Bright Haven. This book I read last year. I absolutely loved it. I adore how this author can change themes, Sword of Kagan and Blood of a Bright Haven, and completely different stories. This is more about grief, this is more about vengeance, about ambition, about wanting to change things and doing whatever it takes in order to do so. For me, it has a very similar flavor as the Poppy War, so if you liked it, you will probably like this one. It's not the same, it's a standalone, but the idea, the feeling that you get while reading it, it's kind of the same. Also, the magic system was really cool. It feels like you're coding, well, the magicians are coding, and it basically follows a girl who is the first woman mage, and she wants to change things. Position number 10, we have one of those very anticipated releases that I wanted to read this year. I haven't done so yet. Oh my god, there are so many books to read. But the first book I adored. I thought it was a tragedy and a masterpiece at the same time, because the first 150, almost 200 pages were really confusing, but then it turned out to be so good that I was obsessed with it, and I just read it very slowly. And readers like you enjoyed a lot both Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned, which is a continuation that I haven't read yet. So this edition, it's really small, like my face, which is not small, but like if you see, it's tiny, like tiny, tiny, tiny. But the illustrations are amazing, and the idea of having this character that it's very grey, he is nuanced, but he is the protagonist of his own story, and we have this world that is twisted. It's phenomenal. I loved it, and the comments that I got about the second book is that the action scenes were addictive, that they could not put this book down, and once you get into this writing style, you just want more and more and more of it. Position number 9, we have a story that I'm really surprised it is here. I thought this series was more on the underrated side, which I'm very happy that is being discovered, and definitely it's a series that I've loved. This book is the third one in the series. I think it's the only one in the whole list that we are, well, not sure, but it's one of the two in this list that it's not the first book in the series that really got those hits. But this one, it's a world that it is very greedy, very dark. The magic revolves around death, elden magic, characters that are facing terrible situations. And the book mentioned The Trials of Empire, which is book 3 in the Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Richard Swan. This is the conclusion. And what I've heard is that you not only follow the characters that you follow in book 1 and 2, but also that the stakes have been so incredibly taken. And I recall ending book 2 and being like, oh, the cliffhanger here, like the stakes now are so high. And so it seems that this book definitely delivers. I actually heard that some people loved it, some people were not as fans, but seeing it here and so up the top, it's giving me a lot of hope. Also, bear in mind that this book, it's potentially here because recency bias, so like there's a fair amount of books in this list that were released this year, therefore they're here due to that. But I really recommend the series nonetheless. A story that was not released this year, I lied before because it is also a standalone, so definitely Lions of Al Hassan was not the only standalone in this list, but I promise I, made my homework, but definitely not my notes were not enough. But this is a standalone that also belongs to the top of my favorite standalones of all time, and it is because it's a story that it is very weird, that it feels cozy, it feels like a thriller, it feels mind-blowing, the narration, it's phenomenal, and at the end of the day, it's one of those stories that either you love or you hate, but it's very hard that you hate it, I think. And this is Piranesi by Susanne Clarke. This author just has created one of the most lovable main characters that you can read, and he's alone in this massive house. He needs to discover what is going to happen. You don't know how he's going to do it. He's facing situations, and the best thing about this book is how he faces life, which I found really inspiring, because he basically tries to, he's very naive. He's very good, and yeah, you're discovering what happens, and you're down for a wild ride. I promise you that. And it is fairly short. So in position number 7, we have a prequel that belongs to a world that it's already well known, although I have not read anything about these. And the amazing thing about this prequel, it's not only that it's a world that a lot of people loves, but that it has generated so many intense emotions, horror, rage. Some readers also reported tears, and this is The Daughter's War, which is a prequel that belongs in the Blacktongue Thief world. It's a story that it is greedy, that it is dark, and people that pitched it mentioned that it is not only the phenomenal writing style, but essentially how they were not able to put down. So if you're looking for an addictive story, I guess this is one for you. In position number 6, we have a story from one of my favorite authors, a standalone, that it is potentially at the top of the works that this author has done. And it is so because she always makes it to create a story that it is funny but dark, and there's a mystery at its core. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This one is the perfect gothic house. Something is happening. Plus we have this twisted witch that it is very bad. And obviously we have something that will terrify you and scar you for a life. In this case, it's the horse. So if you want to give this one a try, do so. I've really enjoyed it this year. I know a lot of readers also have enjoyed it, so please go for it. It is relatively short, it is addictive, the main characters are likable, obviously not the terrible witch, but it's always this found family vibe with T. Kingfisher that blends with humor, and if you like that, I really think you will enjoy this. Position number 5, we have a book, and it's a very well-loved saga that belongs in the reign of sci-fi, fantasy as well, more towards sci-fi. It is a story that is very famous because of how incredible the actions are, of how very twisted the characters turn out to be, and how really you are always at the edge of your seat. And this is the Red Rising saga by Pierce Brown. In my opinion, it's one of those authors that he's unique at making you feel things. Like the main in book 1, Red Rising, in the first chapter, I was already feeling for the main characters, which is not something that I usually do as early on while reading something. And I haven't read the second trilogy yet, but a lot of readers mentioned Golden Sun. They thought this was absolutely incredible, nuts, and that they were not only not able to stop reading, but that they were crying, screaming, raging. I was anxious while reading the first trilogy because you never know what is going to happen. And I know in the second part of this saga, things are way more dark, way more important, and the stakes are even higher. So I can only imagine. Position number 4, changing gears completely, and we move to also a story that I bet you're not surprised that it is here, because not only this author has been winning our hearts over this year, but just this story has gotten a lot of popularity over BookTube lately, and it is because of a reason. It is because it's funny, but it is action-packed, the characters are nuanced, and although you have the typical character that, seems flat, he definitely is not. And we also have a talking cat, and damn it, Donut, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carol. This series, it's very hard if you pick it up that you don't enjoy it. If you don't like humor and you don't like the Dungeons and Dragons vibe, and then perhaps you're not gonna be liking it. But it is uplifting, while at the same time you're dealing with very intense points. So it's uplifting, but it's not a subtle book. It's a book that will remain with you, and I definitely want to continue reading. I've just read this one, took me out of a slump, so it was perfect. I was forever grateful for it, and I know books just improve and improve and improve as you go. So if you've read it, more in the series, which I know a lot of you have done already, write down in the comments and try to cheer others to read it as well, because definitely a fantastic story. Position number 3, we have a release from this year that has conquered the hearts of readers like you, not only because this author is fairly popular, he was the author of The Magicians, but also a lot of readers mentioned that this might be the perfect, the best, the favorite Arthur mythology retelling, and this is The Bright Sword. What I heard about it, because I haven't read it yet is that in one hand it takes humor and it makes it really good. It's trying to accomplish so much, and while you have these historical points to it, you also see how the humor, the irony, the satiric point, it's been woven into the story. And it just, a lot of readers are vibing with this because it was a book that felt very balanced, and I'm happy to know about this because I definitely want to read it as well. In position number 2, we have my favorite book of last year, and man, was this funny because it got a lot of votes. Like what we see in the top 20, it's books that were mentioned like, 3 times, like something like this. This one was mentioned 11 times, which it's not a lot, but it was a lot for these readers, especially taking into account that a lot of them like mentioned books that were different. And this one had these pros and cons, and even people saying that it is a very kind of like young adult kind of story, although it's an adult, that it feels tropey. Even with that, it was a story that fascinated them and that really marked them and made it into the top. And this is The Will of the Many by James Ireton. In my opinion, this is no tropey, but it might be that it is, and it's just that I am also a sucker for the tropes that it tackles. I loved how this story that it's inspired in this Roman Empire environment just made me think, and it just completely kidnapped me emotionally. I was reading it last summer, and I've said it before, I wanted to cancel plans. I did so, I must confess. And I still remember enjoying some parts of this story and feeling absolutely amazed on how the author was taking me to some very weird twists and turns that surprised me incredibly. And I absolutely recommend this if you want something that it is action-packed, but you have a lot of great character development, and there's a mystery at its core of this military academic setting that you need to unravel. Also kind of similar to Red Rising in a way, so if you enjoyed it, don't hesitate. But the winner, the top one, the book that was mentioned the most, it was mentioned 18 times, which is a lot for these, as the best favorite book. It's a story that was also released this year, and I am just so pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed a previous trilogy from this author, and it's a story that blends humor with mystery, with a great world building that definitely has the inspiration of Attack on Titans on the sleeve. So it is unique, but it is not like if you've seen or read Attack on Titan, you kind of know. But the magic, it's also really revolving around nature and around plants. But there's also this piece of, how that can affect your memory. It is really fascinating. The dynamic of the characters, it's phenomenal. And this is, ta-da, The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I read this while being sick and I still loved it. So there's something. There's something. I had like high fever and I still found this incredibly compelling. So definitely you should give this one a try. You start with a mystery that our characters, which are detectives, need to figure out. It is fascinating to me, and also it was very fast. Our characters were moving to different places, and these allowed for also very quick pacing. So it's perfect if you want to get out of a slump because it's funny, it's quick, it's adventurous, the magic, it's unique, and all in all, readers reported that they enjoyed it because it was just the perfect blend. Let me know which has been your favorite book of this year, because if I have not read it, I will definitely make a point to get to it next year. Thank you so much to my Patreons who support me daily. I love the conversations that we have over at Google Meets, like with the book clubs, with the reading sprints, our games. So if you like this content so far and would like to connect more with me or with other like-minded readers, don't hesitate to give a try to our community. We have Book of the Month, we have discussions, we have a lot of fun, and we are really getting to know each other. So yeah, if you want friends that are cool, I think give us a try, and thank you. Bye.